Tonight, Port Lincoln Police plea for information about weapons used in a terrifying hold-up, and no rain relief why farmers in the mid-north are praying to the weather gods as we enter the winter months.
This is Southern Cross News with Fraser Goldsworthy.
Good evening. Police are on the hunt for a cache of weapons used in a brazen robbery at a Port Lincoln football club. 2 men have been arrested over the incident, but police are still trying to piece together the crime.
A desperate search for evidence following a harrowing robbery. Just after 8:30 last Friday, the 2 men allegedly broke into the South's club rooms on Tennant Street.
One male produced a hammer and threatened the staff members before stealing a cash drawer. At the same time, another male produced a handgun and threatened members of the club itself.
Within 3 hours of the incident, police arrested the 2 males at one of their homes.
At this point in time, we're still looking for items stolen in the offence and some of the articles of disguised use.
Today, detectives, police and SES personnel scoured the surrounding area of the club rooms, including the scrubland that leads toward the house where the pair was arrested.
So what we're looking for today is a yellow-handled hammer. We're looking for a black handgun or replica. We're looking for a plastic cash drawer, and we're looking for a white clown mask with red lips and red hair.
Police are also calling for members of the public who might know any further details or the whereabouts of the items to come forward. Anybody with any information can call Crime Stoppers on 1800 333 000 and you can remain anonymous.
There are quite a few members of the community who are absolutely appalled at this behaviour. These 2 males have chosen to steal from a local sporting club that helps the community.
Casey Trelaw, Southern Cross News.
Port Pirie has experienced one of its driest autumns in more than a decade, and officials say winter isn't looking much wetter. It's disappointing news for farmers who say they'll struggle to produce quality crops if the dry spell continues.
It's been a warm and dry start to 2018.
So I've been very light on for rainfall this year with only 55 mils falling for the year so far.
Autumn daytime temperatures were the warmest recorded in our region since 2005, averaging just over 26.5 degrees. But it's been a disappointing 3 months for farmers across the mid-north. The rainfall was the lowest it's been for 13 years.
Managed to get 38 millimetres. That fell on 15 days, but of course 13 millimetres of that, so almost a third of it just fell in 24 hours back on May the 4th.
This year's crops are already behind harvest schedule.
We sowed everything on and things have come up pretty patchy. We've had some ordinary germinations on the heavy ground and so yeah, it's looking quite dry at this stage.
With no water stored below the ground, farmers say they'll need at least 25 mils of rain by the end of next week. They're now relying on heavy and consistent rainfall throughout the winter months. But the Bureau of Meteorology says this doesn't look very likely.
But unfortunately, coming off this dry autumn, winter looks like it's most likely to be a dry winter as well.
Oh, well, the yield will just be right down. There'll be patches that won't be harvested if it doesn't rain properly.
Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
The Port Augusta Council has released its draft budget detailing its spending allowances for the next financial year. Among the raft of proposals is funding for Central Oval, which would see a much-needed toilet block built on the southern side of the complex.
Central Oval is the flash product that's got nearly everything. There's one crucial thing missing in its south.
Amenities on that side of the oval are definitely required, and if we are looking to increase usage of our oval, then we definitely need amenities.
The popular grounds already have amenities on the northern side. However, spectators sitting on the opposite side currently face a 400-metre round trip to the toilet.
We've received questions from the public about when something will be put on that side.
Although it's still relatively new, the manager of the complex says they need to always be looking at ways to move the project forward.
You can't just build it and say that's it, job done. You know, you've got to look at ongoing works that needs to be done.
Supplementing the proposal for the toilet blocks is a $30,000 proposal to re-turf the oval itself.
The ground is, you know, many years old and it needs some work to be done on it. At the moment we're just maintaining it.
The plan has a grander motive to attract big events to the area.
If we are serious about getting high-level sport here, then we need to do some work to the oval.
These proposals, along with a number of others in the budget, will be presented at a public forum next week. Garth Burley, Southern Cross News.
Uniting Country SA has received over $11,000 in donations to help fund housing, youth support and domestic violence services. It's allowed the group to put a roof over the heads of 450 people and help over 200 people who fell victim to domestic violence in the Yorke Peninsula and Mid-North region over summer. The company has welcomed the generous donations but says these issues will continue to rise. A beached humpback whale discovered at Frenchman's Beach west of Port Lincoln has attracted some new visitors. The carcass of the young whale is starting to visibly deteriorate and, as authorities predicted, has lured sharks into the area. A great white, believed to be at least 4 to 5 metres long, was seen circling the shallow waters near the whale yesterday. While sightseeing numbers are expected to increase this long weekend, authorities are warning of the dangers of entering the water. After the break, we're there for the emotional reunion between a teenage lifesaver and a young girl pulled unconscious from a Port Lincoln pool. Details next. Students from Airedale Primary School in Port Pirie were lucky enough to take part in a National Motor Museum travelling education program today. The program places students in the shoes of Tom Cruise in 1954. They face many challenges along the way and drive his Leyland Badger truck from Maree to Birdsville.
Into the history HASS component, and it's comparing what we do now to what they did back then. And it's also got a little bit of STEM in it as well.
It's all part of a statewide school tour. The museum is in Port Pirie again tomorrow before heading to the Riverland. Land managers plagued by feral pigs are being urged to trap or bait the animals. Experts say the common method of killing the pigs is an ineffective way of dealing with the problem.
It's a problem that's made its way into the South Australian outback. The rate of feral pigs is on the rise. While there's a number of ways for landowners to control the problem, experts want to see the bullets traded for bait.
Trapping with cage traps are probably the best option. Baiting is also an option. There's approved poisons that they can use.
At a recent feral pig workshop, property owners were told shooting is only a short-term fix for a long-term problem.
If you've got a number of pigs, often it will be more difficult to get rid of them all at the one time and you're likely to disperse them.
An omnivore, the animals pose a threat to livestock as well as feed.
They eat lambs often, they'll predate on lambs, but also damaging, competition with vegetation.
Like any feral animal, they also carry diseases,
which are at risk to other animals plus also humans.
Property owners are being urged to remain aware for signs of the pests, especially around watering holes and feed supplies.
While they're sort of vary in numbers, we're encouraging landholders to sort of pay attention to them, hopefully start controlling them before they get established.
Garth Burley, Southern Cross News.
The redevelopment of Wilson Park in Whyalla is slowly taking shape with a new playground and basketball court in place. The next stage has now begun with a new skate park to be built for younger children.
After years of neglect, new life is being breathed into Whyalla's Wilson Park. A multi-year redevelopment worth $600,000 is coming together.
Some new tennis courts, a basketball court, lighting of those, we've refurbished the toilets. We've put a wonderful little playground.
Council says with the park sitting on the entrance into town, it needs to be in the best shape possible.
And we love the fact that they walk away from this experience thinking Whyalla is an awesome place to live and recreate.
And as one section finishes, another has just begun. A $160,000 skate park is in the early stages of being constructed. The facility will be targeted at smaller children, but has been designed with all ages in mind.
A really cool design bowl, but incorporated in it is a half pipe with some grind rails, which I really think will cater for the broad spectrum.
The work comes as plans are being drawn up to make the city a more attractive place to live. Mr. Cowley says having modern open spaces is a must to encourage people to make the switch.
Any weekday with the young children, it's just fabulous seeing them outdoors, enjoying our natural environment.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Oz Minerals is preparing for a run of community information sessions across the Spencer Gulf and Far North regions. The sessions will be a chance for the public to find out more about projects and upcoming mining activities and to engage with officials about any concerns. Oz Minerals currently has 2 projects at Prominent Hill and Carrapateena. For more information, visit our Facebook page. A day at the Port Lincoln Leisure Centre pool turned to horror last week when a young girl was pulled unconscious from the water. But thanks to the quick actions of bystanders, the family was able to return to the pool to say thanks for saving their daughter's life.
It's an experience no parent ever hopes to go through.
She was trying to get to her older brother Dom and lost her goggles got caught around her neck, and she's trying to get them off and lost her feeding, which pushed her a bit out of her depth. The first thing I remember is running out and Maddie was bringing Paddy out of the pool, unconscious and very blue.
Those nearby snapped into action, including young lifeguard Madeline McShane.
So when I noticed that Peyton was struggling, I jumped in and took her out. I did a couple breaths of CPR, just did what I was trained to do, and we helped her recover, and after a while she vomited and the ambulance came.
It was the 17-year-old who had to perform CPR while on duty.
And I didn't really think too much about the panic. I just did what I was trained to do, and afterwards the emotions caught up with me.
But with a happy ending, Peyton was able to meet her lifesaver.
Very, very thankful for Maddie that day, everybody who was here.
The incident coming with a very important message.
Even if your kid is a strong swimmer, it's just accidents like this that happen. So just remember to watch around water, and it's really important to make sure that you've got your eye on your child at all times.
Casey Treloar, Southern Cross News.
Incredible story. Well, still to come tonight, some AFLW stars in town to encourage more girls into the sport. That's next. Girls from across Whyalla had the chance to get their footy boots on as the BHP Crows Cup paid a visit today. AFLW players Chelsea Randall and Ebony Marinoff were on deck to encourage more young girls into the game.
They may not know it, but these young girls are trailblazers for the growth of women's footy. Whyalla schoolgirls today took part in the BHP Crows Cup, representing their schools in a round-robin tournament. For many, this was the first time they'd ever played.
We asked them, has anyone who hasn't played football before? And I believe over half of the girls had put their hands up.
Locally, women's teams have grown from just 16 in South Australia 2 years ago to over 120 groups today. Randall, who's re-signed for the Crows, says the league needs a talent base in metropolitan and country areas.
If you build it, they'll come. So that's what we're doing, and creating that platform here in regional areas as well.
BHP's Emily Perry says the program is opening doors for young girls that didn't exist 2 years ago.
We believe there's no job that a woman can't do and no sport they can't play. This will be one of the first generations for girls coming through, playing footy, a sport that they love.
For the girls themselves, it was not only a chance to have a kick, but also a chance to meet their heroes.
I think it was a little bit unfair that only boys could play, but now they've incorporated the girls. It's been really good.
It was just exciting meeting someone famous for a girl, because we look up to them so much.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Broken Hill's local footy league is hoping it'll get a positive response from its grant application to upgrade Jubilee Oval. The local footy league is seeking over $2.5 million to improve facilities to host pre-season state and national games.
It's the marquee venue for footy in Broken Hill, but it's time for an upgrade. AFL Broken Hill recently put in for an application for state funding to bring the Jubilee Oval into the modern era. The overhaul will include new change rooms, covers for the bleachers and new LED lighting.
So we're looking to enhance those, build some new facilities so that we can actually go to the AFL and say, look, we believe we've got a facility here capable of hosting a pre-season AFL game.
The first suggestion of upgrading the Jube came over 12 years ago, with the league being knocked back repeatedly. But with the New South Wales government splashing the cash ahead of the state election, the local league is hoping to see some of it. The idea has received wide-reaching support from council, politicians, local clubs and community groups. The Adelaide Crows have even expressed interest.
Their chairman, Rob Chapman, has actually written to us saying that, look, get your oval, get your complex up to scratch, and we'll certainly look at bringing the Adelaide Crows to Broken Hill.
The Jube also hosts cricket, softball and this year's Outback Rugby Grand Final.
It's a multi-sport facility, and we want to be able to have a facility that this side of Dubbo is capable of hosting these events.
But the league says there's a number of stages to go through after the initial response.
We then have to go to the next stage, which is a detailed application with all the costs associated. So that could probably take another 6 months. If we get through that process, it has to be approved by the Deputy Premier's Department. If it gets through that process, it'll probably be the end of this year before we hear.
Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
Time now for Few Watch. Here's Pat.
Well, it's been a good week here in Broken Hill, but around the Spencer Gulf, things have gone from bad to worse. Starting with unleaded and filling up is getting very pricey. Port Lincoln is up by 2 cents and the same goes for Port Pirie. Whyalla is the most expensive at the moment, climbing by 6 cents to average $1.55. Port Augusta has also had a bad week but is 1 cent cheaper than the Steel City. Kadina is around $1.52. Here in Broken Hill though, we've seen a sharp decline. We're back into the 140s after a 5 cent drop. Adelaide is on the downward cycle and is about $1.43 a litre. To diesel now, and Port Lincoln and Whyalla are both hovering around $1.54. Port Augusta and Port Pirie both 1 cent cheaper. Kadina has seen next to no movement, while here in Broken Hill we're the only ones to see any green. Adelaide has managed to break even and stay on $1.50. Now remember that these prices are the regional averages and they do not reflect any one particular outlet. If you happen to find a spot that does sell unleaded or diesel for cheaper, let us know on our Facebook page.
We'll stay with us after the break. All the local weather details with Amy. And Amy, some warmer winter temperatures around the region today.
Yes, there sure was, Fraser. However, a wet change is set to hit tomorrow. I'll have all the details next. Welcome back. A mostly sunny day around the region today with maximums up into the low 20s. Whyalla reached 19 while Port Augusta saw a high of 21. Despite rain in Port Lincoln, temperatures sat in the 20s. Checking the satellite now, and skies are mostly clear over settled areas of SA due to dry winds blowing around a high pressure system. Some cloud crossing from the west isn't causing any rain. If you're out on the waters tomorrow, northerly winds will pick up to 25 knots with seas reaching 2 metres. Sunrise is at 18 past 7 while it will set at 5:17. Looking at tomorrow's forecast, and it's time to get the umbrellas out again with a very wet day predicted. Whyalla and Port Lincoln will see rain and a top of 19, while Coffin Bay is in for a wet and windy day. Rain will clear in Port Lincoln by Sunday with temperatures sitting at 19 degrees. Similar conditions in Cleve, while Woodnut can expect a mostly sunny 21 to close out the weekend. After a few days of wet conditions in Whyalla, the sun will return by the start of the weekend. Cloudy skies will clear in Port Augusta by Sunday to a fine 21 and a sunny 19 expected in Kadina on Sunday. Temperatures will sit in the high teens and head towards 20 degrees in Port Pirie in the coming days. Clare will hit 17 on Sunday after rain on Friday. Meanwhile, Broken Hill will see rain on Friday, however it will clear into the weekend. So Fraser, despite the lovely start to the week, it's looking like the Spencer Gulf is in for a wet few days.
Thank you, Amy. And that's all from the Southern Cross newsroom this Wednesday. Thanks for your company. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.